Can everybody hear me? Y'all good? Okay. I'm gonna follow you on it. Because I cannot stand on the stage. All right, first I want to thank you for the beautiful introduction. It was great. I don't know who you was talking about. I don't know who that guy is. All right, so I want to also thank everybody for allowing me to be able to come and do to tell my story at the conference or whatever. There's several people here that I want to pay homage to first before I get started, because if it was not for them, I wouldn't even be here. So one of those individuals, and if I call her name, she has to stand up. Her name is Cindy Smith. I've been waiting to do this all day. Cindy Smith. Now, give it up to Cindy Smith. Give it up to Cindy. Yeah, listen. I'm a firm believer that God makes absolutely no mistakes. That he always knows what he's doing and how he weaves things together so beautifully. But I met Cindy several years ago when I got out of prison. I was at a program called Truth Recovery Ministries, and she made me feel as though I was human. Because I was in rehab, she didn't treat me any different. I went on to become assistant director at that drug rehab, and a guy by the name of Jim Herboy, who has passed away, was the director of that program. He took me into their office and said, "Hey, look, don't call me, call TeeJay. He's gonna run the program." I became an assistant director there. And so one day she asked me to speak at drug court. I had never spoke before. And ever since then, I've been on tour. I just want to tell her thank you. Because if it had not been for Jesus, put me in my life. And then if you notice, there's a guy at her table. His name is Mark Young. So Mark Young, if you would please stand up, sir. So these are. So I want to be able to. Hey Mark, I want to tell Mark thank you too. But I want to explain that I'm not originally from St. Clair County. I'm from Coleman, Alabama. And when I made parole in prison, everybody wants to go home. No matter what the case may be, everybody wants to go home. But when I was in the program in prison, therapeutic community, it made you look at yourself for who you are, and you had to ask some real questions. Like, is that where I need to go? And so when I asked that question, is that where I need to go? If I asked the question, I already know the answer. And the answer was absolutely not. So I ended up in Talladega, and I met Mr. Mark Young. And so as you can see, I try to dress like him too. Like they say, find something about an individual that you like and emulate that. And so he was always well-dressed, well-spoken. And he was a man after God's own heart. That's what really attracted me to him. Because very rarely do you find anybody in the system that'll tell you about who Jesus is. And so I admired him for that. You know, he didn't shun away from that. And so I just want to thank them too. You guys give them a round of applause for all right, so my name is TeeJay Wilson. I got several things that's going on. Can I take this jacket off real quick? This was only for the first couple of seconds. Check 1, 2, check. Because it's a little tight. All right, so my name is TeeJay Wilson. I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama. Where are my Huntsville people at? Anybody from Hunts Vegas? Hunts Vegas. All right, Hunts Vegas, okay. I'm originally from Hunts Vegas. That's where I got my sentence from. That's where I was sentenced at. I was sentenced to a 20-year sentence at St. Clair Prison. I got sentenced under Judge Little for conspiracy to traffic. Not because I was a drug dealer, but because I was a flunky. 9 times out of 10, most people won't tell you that. And what I mean by flunky, I was a dude in full-blown addiction that was asked to do something and I did it. And so there's consequences to it. You gotta be okay when you do it, good or bad. And so I ended up getting my time from Madison County. That's where I got my time from. I was raised in a small community called Colony, Alabama. Where are my Coleman people at? Look at Coleman back there. Y'all just back there. Look at y'all. Y'all weren't loud enough though. Where are my Coleman people at? Okay, there you go. They back there. Okay, all right. So here it is. I'm an angry kid. And what I mean by an angry kid is because while I was in in Huntsville, I'm from a little spot called Northwood. Northwood was in the projects. My mom is an addict, my dad is an addict. I didn't leave Northwood until I was 6, so I never had ever met white people before. Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see you. And so I ended up moving to Coleman County, where I never saw black people again. I was I'm really upset about it. A total culture shock, okay? And so, coming up as a kid, I was very angry. I was angry because before I ever left Coleman, I was molested as a kid. And so, when you go through things like that, emotionally and mental, there's things go on inside of the kid's mind that nobody ever thinks about. I never would have thought that it was a God moment when now that I'm 43 years old, I call it plucking us. So I never thought it was a God moment when God plucked us from Northwood and sent us to Coleman. I didn't think of it then as a kid. But now I look back on it, and hindsight is always what? 2020. You can see it clearer now. And so I look at it now and I'm like, God, you did something that was amazing back then. You've been there the whole time. Now, I wanted to say that so I can, hey, y'all, look at my beautiful daughter over here in the corner. She's recording. Can I see that book, Haley? You do a great job, Taylor. Thank you so much. All right, so there's this book that God has given me the unction to write. This book is called Pressure Makes Diamonds.
Good book. Great book.
Great book. Amen. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, this book is everything that some people ask me what the book is about. And they say, hey, TeeJay, what is your book about? Because a lot of times, because you see my prison picture on the front, you see me as the CEO of my company on the back. And a lot of times they think it's about me, but really it's about how God has been there this whole time. And so, when I wrote this book to show all the God moments that I've had in my life. You know, I can't record all of them, but all of the ones that were so significant that they changed the course for so many people, not just me. Said, hey, to my daughter. And see, before I went to prison, I didn't have a relationship with her. See, God said he'll do it exceedingly, abundantly, above all I could ever imagine in my mind. And so he said he'll work it out. And while I was in prison, I went through this program called Therapeutic Community. And if you know anything, anybody know about Therapeutic Community? Anybody ever heard of that program? All right, so Therapeutic Community was a program that is very intense. The program is one of the most intense programs in the penal system. You have SAP, you have relapse prevention, but this is a 2-year-long program, and that program taught me how to work a real, authentic program of recovery. Because before I ever went in, I smoked crack for 17 years. And I know I don't look like what I've been through. You ain't got to tell me. You know, I appreciate that though. And so, I'm grateful because I don't look like what I've been through. But I'm grateful for what I've been through, because if it had not been for what I've been through, I wouldn't have got a chance to meet you. Like, God knows exactly what he's doing. And he knew back then. See, when I was in prison, he told me, TeeJay, I'll be a light unto your feet, and I'll direct your path. If you just do one thing, what y'all think that one thing is? Just be obedient. He ain't asking me to do anything fancy, he just said be obedient. Because there's been plenty of times that the addict and the alcoholic, they roam around asking God, why me? God, why me? Like I used to ask it, I got 5 brothers, and I used to say this, why I gotta be the one to smoke crack? Not because I wanted my brothers to get high, but I used to ask that question, like, why I gotta be me? And God, well, what is my purpose? And he said, your purpose, TeeJay, is just to be obedient and follow me. Ever since I started following, my life changed. Now, a lot of times when I say this next part, a lot of people think that this part is really weird, but my life changed and everything started happening to me great. Started happening to me when I was in prison, not when I was up here. See, in prison, I gained something called trust from individuals that worked in the system. There were several people that I met in prison. I met a great warden at St. Clair. His name was Warden Henley. He let me be the warden runner. He trusted me enough to do that. I thought, man, God, that's great. I met the director, Ronald Douglas, who's the director over the therapeutic community program at St. Clair. He let me be an intern. He wanted me to teach the program of recovery. I said, do they know I used to smoke crack? They want me to teach them class. And so I used to think in my mind, I said, God, you know what, you are really, really, really doing things that I never imagined. Then God said, wait, I'm gonna blow your mind. And he, not only did he say, I'm gonna blow your mind, but he started asking me to do weird things. Like, I need you to go praise dance up there in the chapel in front of all these prisoners. I said, praise dance in the chapel? I ain't praise dance in front of these dudes, God. I ain't gonna do that. And so for about a couple of months, I started, man, he wouldn't let it go out of my mind. Just like that book. That book has been on my mind for years to write the book. And everywhere I went, you could only hear God say, write the book so many times. People would say, hey, look, write the book. TeeJay, it's time for you to write the book. Well, I keep hearing his voice say, go dance in that chapel. And so while I'm up there at St. Clair, I said, okay, God, I'm going to go dance at the chapel. And so I praised to a song that was called Never Would Have Made It. Do y'all know that song? Anybody ever heard that song? I can't sing. Where am I singing at? Can somebody, you got your hand up, girl. Come here. Come here. Oh, my bad. Okay. All right, so the song is called Never Would Have Made It by Marvin Sapp. And so the song is one of those, I never would have made it without you. And so that song became my fight song. The reason it became my fight song is because that song was my mama, who was a drug addict. It was her favorite song. And while I was in prison on a Wednesday on 95.7, that's the Birmingham channel, this song comes on while I'm walking the yard. And it makes me think at that very moment, even though my mom had passed away, that me and her were connected somehow. And while I'm out there, I'm doing these weird little moves, and then a couple of days later, God said, I want you to praise dance at that chapel. And so, needless to say, I go praise dance in the chapel. To never would have made it. Not only did I praise dance in that chapel, but I praise dance in almost every church that I've been to since I've been out of prison. Amen. Why? I just wanted to be obedient, God. I just wanted to show you that I'll do what you told me to do. Hey, very few people, when they say, hey, pick me, I'll go. Hey, God, pick me, I'll go. I can remember being in prison and seeing individuals keep coming back through the door before I get out. And I keep saying, man, if they come back one more time, I'm going to beat him up. Because he's going to mess it up for me when I get an opportunity to go out. And so I say, God, if you give me one more chance, God, I'll go out and I'll do what you called me to do. I made parole in February 4th of 2013. That's where I met these individuals, these fine individuals here. And so I met them when I paroled out of prison to Truth Recovery Ministries. Once I got to Truth Recovery Ministry, Jim showed me how to work an authentic program of recovery outside. I got clean inside for those 5 years, but I've never been clean on the street. I started smoking weed at 10. I started drinking as early as 6. And the reason I drank at 6, my grandfather was a bootlegger, was I knew that it would not make me think about what I'd been through when it came to the molestation. So here it is, I'm at Truth Recovery Ministry. I graduate that program, I become an intern in that program, and I start working at that program. I stay there. I don't really have nowhere to go, so I stay on. Everybody makes fun of me. They talk about it. You're going to be here forever. It didn't matter that they talked about me, they talked about Jesus. It really didn't matter what the individuals came in and said. I knew that God was trying to take me somewhere, and He was telling me to be patient and just wait on it. And so, 2016, February, I decided to quit Truth Recovery Ministry. I went home and I told my wife I quit my job. She said, "No, you're not." I said, "Yeah, I'm quitting. God told me it's time." And I said, "I'm gonna open up my own program." She said, "How you gonna do that?" I said, "I don't know, but He told me it's time. I'll never be able to get my own place open if I stay here." And she said, "Well, you're not quitting your job." We fought about it a couple of days. I mean, yes I am, girl. No, you're not. Yes I am, girl. No, you're not. And so I'm like, I'm telling you it's over with. And I go in one day and I say, "Hey, listen, I asked Jim for his blessing." I said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna open up my own program." But he thought about it and he gave me his blessing. And so I left February the 5th of 2016. So me and my wife, I'm telling you, this is exactly how I got this program. So me and my wife are finally around each other for a week straight when I've been working every day from like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to 10, 11 o'clock at night, every single day for the last year. We ain't even been around each other as much. We don't even know how to act around each other. I said, "You want to pray about this?" She said, "Yeah." So we did. We went to our prayer closet. We prayed in the closet about, because I've never not had a job since, and it's weird to her because she was with me in my addiction. And so in her mind, you can always see how it's playing out. She thinks I'm going to go back to what I used to do. I'm going to fall back into that. And you can't help it. She can't help it because that's exactly what she's used to. But in February of that year, I went to the mailbox during the same week on that Friday that I quit, on that first Thursday that I quit, and I went to the mailbox and I pulled out 2 checks. Both of those checks was from the IRS. When I got to Truth Recovery in 2013, the IRS held my income tax check because someone had used my Social Security number. And so they had to do an investigation. They give me this weird number and tell me to use that number when I get ready to do my taxes. Well, they hold them. They hold them for 13, they hold them for 14, they hold them for 15. And when I get to the mailbox, I got 2 checks in the mail. I'm rich. Both of these checks are about $7,000 a piece. IRS had to pay interest for holding the checks. So I run back. Well, before I run back, I want you to understand the enemy always is lurking. His job is to steal, kill, and destroy. Immediately in my mind, something said, "You can flip one of these checks. She'll never know." Right? And so in my mind, really, so right then I said, the devil is a lie. I scooted to my house. I ran from the mailbox like this. I said, "Hey, get this right now." And so I did. And I gave it to my wife and I said, "Hey, listen, this is the money that God wanted to give us." Like, you can't miss what you didn't have. You can't miss what you didn't have. And see, when he says he'll make a way out of no way, listen, it's blind faith. I'm walking out here like this, knowing that you're going to prepare a way, and you're going to make a way out of no way. And that's exactly what he does. He gives me those 2 checks. Now I got about $14,000 to open this program when I had no money. About $700 saved in little savings. You know, they go fast when you got no job. And so that was on Friday. On Thursday. On Friday, I go back to the mailbox, and here's my 2015 income tax check. Listen, I want you to know that this is all God and none of me. His timing was impeccable. See, God has always done something for me. See, when I said I'll do what you called me to do, he's always been an on-time God. And so here it is again. He is being an on-time God. Now I need this money, and so how am I gonna open this program? Well, I get another check that's about $7,000. Now I got $21,000. I've never had this much money. Remember, I smoked crack. I've never had this much money in my life. And so here it is in my mind. I'm thinking, oh God, I got enough money to get the program open. Well, 21,000 don't last long. I thought I had enough money to get it open. But listen, even though the 21 wasn't enough, I had enough. See, God here, when you acquire God's favor gets you things that you could never afford. All right. Understand what I'm saying? So I go and I find a building. First I create the name. Because someone told me, TeeJay, you can't have a vision and you can't have a baby unless you give the baby a name and a social security number. So if you're going to have a business, you need to give it a name and create it so it can have an EIN number so you'll be really legit. So I went to LegalZoom.com. I'm pregnant. I got this issue. I got this vision inside. Remember, everything that you're looking at right now, everything that you see, that phone you texting on. I got you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything everything that you see right now, it came from a thought first. No matter what the case is, that door, that shirt, whatever, that mask, it was a thought first. I said, God, I got thoughts. He said, listen, if you got thoughts, I'm a God that brings thoughts to fruition. So I got a thought. I want to help individuals that struggle in addiction like I did. Like my mom did and my dad did. Like my granddad did and my grandmother did. I want to break the curse that's on my family. So I got the vision. I take this 21,000 and I start trying to open up Fresh Start Recovery Ministries. I give it a name. We get an EIN number. And then they tell me that I got to have a sprinkler system in the building we found. It cost $25,000. I said, I thought I was rich. But I got a God. So I don't know what to do. My money has went fast. And next thing you know, an old client of mine at Truth Recovery says, hey, he comes over one day and says, hey, TeeJay, my friend does this type of stuff that you do. They just love helping people. Maybe you should talk to them. That was John and Alandra, who became my partners. And we went 33% as partners. They came and partnered with me and wanted to be silent partners, and they brought $45,000 to the table and set it into the account and said, hey, TeeJay, get the work done. Okay, cool. That's great. 45,000 wasn't enough. The city of Lincoln told me that I had to put fire-rated sheetrock in the building. They said it reminded the building is 7,000 square feet. They said you gotta tear out all the old sheetrock and add the new. I said, do you know how much money that's gonna cost? But I can't do the work. I gotta hire a contractor, and the contractor has to come and bid it. And the lowest bid I got was $103,000. Here it is, we done spent 60-something thousand, and we ain't even scraped the surface. But I'm gonna tell you what I got. I got a God that'll show favor. So I go back to the drawing board to the people that I got the building from. And when I go back to him, I say, hey, listen, I want to thank you because, see, I'm ready to give up. Here it is, I started in February, here we are in May, and I haven't made any progress to get the building open. I gotta go to work because money is scarce. So in my mind, I gotta go to work. But I can remember that time when I was coming up for parole, and I picked